This is the True North Collective podcast, a gathering of unsugar-coated conversations on authenticity, created by the real-life documentation of everyday humans fearlessly finding their true north.
Welcome to Season 3 of the podcast.
Hi, I'm Rachel. My research topics as of late have been all around the female gens. I'm ready for hoodie weather, and I recently donated 200 items of clothing, and I'm ready to get rid of more.
Hi, I'm Emily. I am currently dealing with prematurely graying hair. I'm a Libra Sun, Libra Rising, Capricorn Moon, and I just recently got a new tattoo.
Hi, I'm Jenell. I'm terrible at tying my shoes. A pot-bellied pig bit me as a child, and I'm living my 20s like Benjamin Button. And we are your host of the True North Collective podcast.
Okay, what does premature grays mean?
Oh my gosh. I have gray, like pockets of gray hair all in my hair, and I'm not 30. So prematurely gray hair.
Oh, so my brother is 2 years younger than me, but when he was like 15, 16, he already was salt and pepper hair.
Damn.
So I'm like, I think it's the coolest thing ever. I'm finally getting white hairs, and I'm like, yes, 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 yes.
Everyone I've told has said that. Like, they're like, oh, it's so cool. And I'm like, I'm devastated. I'm like, no, this can't be happening.
That's so funny. I thought that gray hairs grew out gray, but they turn gray. Like overnight, the whole hair follicle will turn gray.
What? Wait.
I was like, how did this grow so fast? And Dylan's like, because it just like the whatever it is that has the color like dyes or whatever.
It is like I stared
Your
at my
face
for like 5 minutes. I was like, no. And then I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you won't believe this. She was like, oh yeah, well, I prematurely grayed. And I was like, and you didn't tell me? Like,
I love it, dude.
So
I think it's so pretty.
I do love a woman that can rock like the white, gray, just like full.
Yeah.
I would just like for funsies, maybe. Rachel, you're talking about shaving your head, and I keep saying, I'm like, that would be neat. And then I don't think I actually can do it, but maybe I'll just go for full white.
Well, so when I was in Milwaukee with you, Jenell, I had a mohawk, and I wanted it to be the white. You know how people like dye their hair so blonde that it's white? But because of the chemotherapy that I have, it messed with something. And so apparently that's like a thing. And so whenever I'd go to Kate, my hairdresser, she would try very hard to like tone it so that it would be more of the white, but it's like neon, like highlighter, weird. It's not white.
Interesting.
But now that I have white hairs coming out, I'm like, yes.
Slowly getting there.
I'm getting there.
You will.
I will. What's your new tattoo of?
It is a little carnation.
Oh, it's so cute.
I like that. That's
Where'd you go?
A cute placement.
So I went to this new place. I hadn't been there before. It's like Val. Now I'm gonna butcher the name. The owner is, I think, Icelandic. So it's like Valkyrie or something. It's
okay. Is it down here?
Yeah. So it's kind of off of Inwood. Do you know where Inwood is? So it's kind of like a little more northwest of Oak Cliff.
Okay.
It's only like 5 to 10 minutes away. They did a really good job.
Nice. It looks very delicate.
She was amazing.
Cool.
She does very delicate tattoos, which I love.
I still want a finger tattoo. Oh, actually, you know what I think I'm going to do, though? I think when I'm in Colorado, we're going to go get our nose pierced.
Yeah, that seems like something you would do.
I've kind of always wanted my nose pierced. I think it look cute.
You're going to do a hoop or a stud?
Oh, totally a hoop. You got to do the hoop. You don't
have to.
Well, you don't have to, but I was hanging out with Emily from Spire in Salt Lake, and she has her nose pierced too, and she just like reminded me of how much I want to do it, and then it came up again in another conversation with another person. who wanted to get done. I was like, damn.
I think she was trying to
Stars
get
are
me
aligning.
to get a nose
Oh, really?
piercing when we worked with her. And I
That's
was like,
funny.
I don't know. I got such a small face. I don't need to like put any more things on it.
Just like it. There's something
But you don't
about
wear
it.
glasses very much. I feel like you need like one staple thing for your face.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if you have like glasses and a nose ring and I'm going to have a shaved head and then probably lipstick and earrings, it's just like a lot.
Yeah, I don't wear glasses. I guess I wear these earrings, but I never take them off, and that's really about it.
Dude, you should totally do it.
Statement piece.
Yeah.
Some people go on dates and get matching tattoos. I'll go on a date and we'll get our nose pierced.
Wait, the guy
guy
is gonna get one? Is he gonna get a hoop too?
He had one. That's like what also brought it up. Like, he was younger, he had one. And I was like, dude, it looks so fucking good. I was like, can you get your nose pierced again? He's like, I've been thinking about it. I was like, great, let's go together.
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen, which is like maybe really weird. I can't imagine. I've seen like lips, eyebrows, but I don't know if I've seen like been friends with somebody who's had it.
Super cute. I don't know. I saw a picture because he's very or at least in this picture he was, but what did Brian when I was in Utah? He's like very like Prince Charming looking, and then he's just got like a fucking nose ring. Of course, he had long hair at one point too, like down to here, and
love the long
like
hair.
all over the place. But in that picture, I'm like, I just like the grit, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you got some flavor to you. Like, okay.
You'll for sure send a photo, won't you?
Oh yeah, if I get it done. I don't know if people are piercing noses right now because I feel like that's very not COVID friendly, but I think someone would do it.
I don't know.
That would be the only thing that would stop me. Like, hey, very COVID, stick something up my nose.
Well, I breathe heavily because I'm nervous.
Exactly. I don't know, but if we can get it done in this small little mountain town,
yeah,
I'm gonna do it.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
Anyway, should we introduce Emily?
Yeah. Yes, let's introduce Emily. Okay, so Emily, I think I met you because I went to your yoga class the first time. Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, at the Urban Hippie Yoga.
Yeah.
Jenell, you've been there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I'm like, I feel like, have we met before, Emily?
I don't know.
I mean, Emily knows.
Wait, did we go to her class?
I'm gonna feel awful if we.
No, you don't have to feel
I don't think
awful.
so. I don't know. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. I feel like I know you though. Maybe I just know you from the internet.
Well, anyways.
Anywho, back to the introduction.
So Emily, I met her at her yoga class and was just like, her voice to me was like, drop me into my like soul. The second I heard you, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then from there, I didn't know you were taking Chelsea's meditation teacher training. And so now she is a yoga teacher, meditation teacher in Dallas, has been doing that for the last 2.5 years. And is also the studio manager for Breathe, Chelsea's meditation studio. So that's where we really kind of started spending more time together. And I was just like, your soul is just so, I don't know, there's something really calming about it. And what's up with you? Who are you? And then as we started talking, I was just like, you got to come have a conversation with us. But what's really cool is Emily's in the process of going through the steps of becoming a midwife. So I know, it's so cool. So to get this right, I'm going to actually read what you said to me.
Okay.
So she's currently in Doula and Placenta Encapsulation Training to help women holistically move through maternity, birth, and postpartum healing, eventually becoming a midwife. So that sounds amazing. And before we like dive into everything, I would love to hear what Doula and Placenta Encapsulation is.
Me
Sure.
too.
So being a doula is like not being a midwife. So just wanted to clarify that first. So midwife is kind of a longer process because you're actually delivering a baby, which is obviously a very, very serious thing. So doula training is just basically a certification in which you can kind of be a support system for a woman through her, maternity, and then the birthing, actual laboring birth process, and then also the postpartum. So just being in the room, kind of hearing what her expectations are, you know, for her birth, what she's kind of wanting, and then just making sure that you kind of bridge the gap between her and the birth team and her partner, and just really trying to support her through this like incredible transformative experience, life-changing experience. And then placenta encapsulation is a little bit different. So actually taking the placenta and processing it and putting it into capsules so that women can take it afterwards in the postpartum period, if that's something that they want to do.
What inspired you to get into this? It's so cool.
So that's a long story. So I, when I was in college, I was pre-med. So I actually was like wanting to go to med school when I moved to Dallas. That was kind of like the plan. Obviously did not go that way, but so I wanted to be, you know, a women's health doctor, and I wanted to be like an OB. And kind of through more research and working in the medical field, I just decided that I didn't think that was going to be the path for me. I wanted to go a more holistic route. And so, you know, I went through yoga and meditation. I was kind of going through some other things too, moved through that. And then now I'm kind of circling back and supporting women in a different way, not, you know, so much a medical or traditionally westernized medical way, but in a more holistic way, which is, I think, what my soul has been wanting or longing for this whole time.
That's really cool. Super cool. We had a death doula in season 2. Now we have a birth doula. I love it. Okay, and also I'm going to reverse. I think we met at Whole Foods in Dallas during Breathe training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I remember. Wait, was it during the Breathe training?
Orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, orientation.
That's right. I forgot you did that. I was like, why the fuck?
I was like, this is going to bother me. I was like, I swear we met in person. Anyway,
That's
sorry
so
to totally derail. It just occurred to me.
That's right. I forgot really about that.
So what, I've heard that before, but what does, because is it the consumption of the placenta?
Yes. So
what does that do for you?
Well, so technically, like FDA wise, there hasn't really been any like evidence-based studies on it, because to do that, you would basically have to tell women, like a certain group of women, hey, you're going to take a pill. It might be your placenta. It might not. And like postpartum is hard enough as it is. Why would a woman want to take a fake pill that may or may not do anything? But so the mammals typically eat their placenta. I think, I don't want to say all, but like most mammals eat their placenta afterwards because they're exhausted. They just went through this whole birthing process, and then, you know, they eat it to kind of nourish themselves so they can move forward and help their infant. And so it's thought that it really helps with postpartum depression and postpartum weight loss, hormone balance, milk supply. So lots of good benefits. But obviously, you know, FDA wise, nothing's been proven yet, but.
Super cool. It's interesting.
Yeah. I've been learning so much about what my first fact of one of my big like topics that I've been just like digesting everywhere I can is anything about female genitals. Like I had no idea. I didn't know. I have like 1998, they actually figured out what the true anatomy of the clitoris was. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, so I think once I knew that I was, I didn't necessarily get the most like robust sexual, I don't even know what you'd call it, like sex ed in my school was just like, I barely remember it. Like
don't get pregnant.
Literally.
Put a condom on a banana.
I mean, I remember they split us up into 2 groups, and like the girls, we talked about what was going to happen when you went to the gynecologist, but I kind of like get woozy with things. So I like don't really remember. But I don't like, there wasn't a ton, and they weren't necessarily presenting it in a way where I like wanted to know, or like why it would be interesting for me to know. And I'm like learning so much now. So I've been listening to different podcasts, and just like the fact that the clitoris is the only organ in any mammal that is purely for sexual pleasure. That's it. There's no other organ. It's just like all this stuff I had no idea. So I think we obviously have a long way to go in terms of the larger public being aware of, honestly, the magic that exists in like females.
Really, I love when you send me all the Marco Polos on it too, because I tend to listen to them in public places without headphones in. And I'm just like walking around, and Rachel's like, so the clitoris, the clit. Like, at the grocery store, I'm like, what's up?
Or I'm like, it's not called a vagina, it's a vulva.
Basically. I'm like, what up, old man at the grocery store? Have you heard of the clitoris?
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah,
I should probably wear headphones.
I was talking to my mom about, not to derail because this is really not about me, but I was talking to my mom the other day, and I like forget that she's my mom and she probably doesn't want to know all this stuff. I was like, Mom, oh my God, there's this site that I found where you, and she's like, okay, Ray. And she's not like prude or anything, but she just is like, I don't know, more traditional in some respects. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, you probably don't want to know any of this, but if you do, like, let's talk about it, because I'm really interested in this. So.
I just had that happen to me too. I'm getting all my mail sent to my parents' house because I'm on the road, and my mom like will ask me, and she's super sweet about it. She like asks me before she opens it, and there was one, and I was like, that looks like spam, and then she opens it up, she sends a picture to me, doesn't say anything, and it's like my trip to Planned Parenthood, which is just like a general checkup. It's fine, but like you just read it, it's like, you know, all the STD tests like listed out. I'm like, she just doesn't say anything. I'm like, don't worry, Mom, I don't have an STD. Just like,
she's like, oh, I know, I can see that.
She like didn't even comment. She just like sends a picture, says nothing else. She's like, okay, have a good day.
Oh my God, I love it. It's, you know what though, it's so important for like us to be talking about these things. Like I was in a coaching program with somebody who is going through menopause, and she was like, I want to talk about it, but I feel like I'm always in these circles of younger women who aren't going to understand and think it's weird. And I was like, sister, you got to share it, because like, I'm going to go through it. Like, because of the cancer I had, I might actually end up being premenopausal, which means like the time is a ticking. It's like, like I'm in my late 30s. And so I was like, you got to share that, because it's like, that's the issue that's happened, is that none of us have talked about this stuff. So I'm really, I think Jenell, and there's like a few other people where we've been like, we got to just talk about it. Like, get over the weirdness. You get over it really pretty quickly. Especially when you start to realize that like the power in actually understanding your body and what's going on, and what it's, how much it can tell you. Like, it can really tell you a lot. And anyways, so rabbit hole. So it's cool.
I feel like this is a great segue to intimate relationships.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, we wanted to have Emily on. We asked her, what are you wrestling with when it comes to authenticity or living your true north? And specifically, she was like, how do you be yourself in intimate relationships? And we're like, get in here, let's talk about it.
No fucking clue. Let's go.
So Emily, tell us a little bit about like about that, like whatever comes to mind for you and why that felt important, especially now.
Sure. So it's an interesting progression, but you know, for me, I've always kind of been in these, you know, half in, half out sort of relationships where, you know, I didn't really want to commit. I I never put it out there. You know, I just didn't want really, the intimacy scared me. And, you know, not being able to, you know, say what I need physically, emotionally, you know, mentally, whatever it is. And also just not feeling like I even had any room to speak really about anything. And so this whole year, you know, ever honestly since quarantine, I really took like a deep dive into, okay, Emily, like, why is this something that you struggle with? And all these like childhood things just were like hitting me in the face, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I thought you were over that. I thought you got over that, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it was a really, really kind of like huge wake up call for me, because, you know, everyone can say, I'm in this healing process, I'm, you know, whatever. And I'm kind of the person where I am super, super independent. And I actually just saw this thing on Instagram, and it was like, ultra independence is a trauma response. And that to me is, I think, sums up kind of everything that I have been struggling with these past 6, 7, 8 years of just non-committing, and also just being like, I don't need you. Like, I don't need you. And that's been something that I just have really been deep diving into my soul about.
Do you think that when you say an inability to be intimate with other people, do you find that same level, and I'm putting words of inability, so, but do you find that same reflection within yourself, or do you find it easy to be intimate with yourself?
I guess over the past 2 to 3 years, I've found it really, really easy to be intimate with myself. But that can also be like, it's like back to that independence thing, right? It's like, well, I'm good. Like, I'm by myself. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm single. Like, I don't. But then it's also, you crave that companionship and that growth from being with, you know, another, or being with someone else. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was asking because I have the same thing. I am totally hyper independent. But I have, even in that independence, tended to jump from one long-term relationship to another. But then within that relationship, I'm always struggling with like, where am I? Where are you? And I then, codependency is like a very big thing that um, I have like had started to dig into before. Again, the quarantine just kind of like, I think it's opened up a lot of things for a lot of people. And for me, I've been playing with how once I get, it's like I consider myself pretty picky, but then once I'm in the relationship, I just go away. I'm just like, okay. And that's not totally true. Like, you'd be like, that's not true. You are yourself. But the way that I'm operating is so, how are you doing? What do you need? And I play it off as like, I'm chill, I'm independent, I can take care of myself, it's cool, like, I'm awesome. And I do have that, but really deep down, what's going on is I have found an inability to trust myself. And so, and trust who I will be when another person shows up the way they show up. And so then, because of that lack of trust of self, I'm trying to control, or I'm waiting around for somebody else to be somebody. And so there's just like a lot of weird, unknowing manipulation that's happening. And so I've been kind of peeling that back a little bit, or a lot actually, in the last few months. But I was just curious because a lot of times for me, my ability to be intimate externally I'm noticing has a relation, like a correlation inward. It might not be like the exact same thing, but it's like the thing that I'm struggling with on the outside is the aspect that I can't seem to acknowledge or get close to or whatever on the inside for myself. And it's really easy for me to just point the finger outside of myself versus be like, ooh, sister, you got trust issues, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not trust, it's trust of others, but it's really trust of yourself in relationship. That's been kind of interesting.
Everything's a mirror.
I think for me, I like have people at an arm's length. And so I don't really let them get near me, but like I will give and give and give and give until I have nothing left. But I don't allow myself to receive what I'm giving in relationships because, I think some people are like, well, maybe you don't feel like you deserve that, and that could be true. But I think it's also a situation for me where it almost feels like a form of weakness. Like if I allow myself to receive this, then I'm no longer independent. I'm relying on someone else, which is a false narrative that I'm telling myself. But it's like, I'm allowing myself to receive this. Oh no, I'm dependent on this person. That can't happen. And then, normally I'll run away or something else.
It's so relatable. I did the same exact thing. I actually did that a lot with friendships. Like I could get to a little bit more of a safe space in intimate relationships, but I always had a hard time like accepting things from friends because I would just get so squirmy about it. And it wasn't until maybe the last year, 2 years that I started to actually be able to do that and like allow people to show up for me. But yeah, it was definitely a way to protect myself. It was just like, well, if I don't let you do anything nice for me, then like you're kind of still at a distance and like we might be around each other and we sort of show up, but like I never wanted to become reliant on another person because then there's the fear of losing that person. So it's just like better to never have it than to lose it, which isn't true, but that like the rationale in my brain. So I appreciate that because I've also been playing with the idea that I am so independent and yet in many ways also like dependent in intimate relationships though too, of like when it comes to partners, feeling that I need to be in a relationship in order to be safe, which has been a really interesting belief that I discovered this year. Because similar to you, Rachel, like long-term relationships, kind of just jumping from one to next, not being single for that long, and realizing like how much training is in me to say like, even if I'm like, I should be single, the other part of me is like, you're unsafe if you're on your own. You need another person to be there in case anything happens. And building up my friendships has definitely helped me to be able to not feel like I need that from one person. But it's been really interesting watching that evolution and trying to unlearn that belief, which I'm still working on it because it's just so deep inside of me, just to like, you're not safe, you're on your own, you're not safe. And like every day I should be like, you are safe, you're fine, you're safe.
It's funny, like, I mean, we've even experienced that too, as we've been like, okay, let's keep doing this podcast and like, this is great. And then you like reach that next level of intimacy as friends and as business partners. And it's like, okay, now we're here. And like, for me, I think that looking back on, I'd say season 2, I guess, because I don't know what year it is. I was definitely, I would say like, whatever, like we don't have to be like best friends. Like there's no commitment. It's totally fine. Like I was always preemptively giving you an out. And what that manifested in is like you being always thinking that I was trying to bolt. And like, we had to like,
triggers. I'm like, Rachel's going to reject me. She's going to I'm like, this is
like,
her passively telling me that she hates me.
I'm like, just letting you know, like, you don't have to hang around me. I know I'm like a lot, so blah, blah, blah. But like,
I'm like, she wants to leave.
Yeah. But it's been interesting how the two of us it's been cool that this process has helped me get more comfortable with intimacy because you I don't know, we have a platform of like open dialogue. And so then we've been able to just talk about it. And then we can't really leave unless we totally dick the other person over. So then it's like, okay, let's talk about this. I'm really awkward right now. But it's helped me. It's helped me.
For sure. For sure. I actually had a conversation with Joaquin, who's been on the podcast many times, and he'll talk about, you know, his life and his like relationship with his husband. And I was like, I feel like you and I, just from maybe it is like, yeah, we have like this quote unquote baby together. Like or maybe it's because I don't know, who knows, but like you and I like have tough conversations all the time. And I think in a lot of my other friendships, I can get away with not having those and like things are fine. But yeah, I think it's just because of how enmeshed we are and like also just over time. So when he's sharing about his, you know, his husband, I'm like, well, when Rachel and I had this, like, I'm basically dating Rachel. It's fine. Just like,
okay, I'm cool with it. You're helping me grow into the person that
you
I'm
are also
becoming.
helping me grow as well. No, it's like, it's great, but I just think it's so funny because even when I've been in relationships, I'm just like, I'm not talking about my romantic relationships in the way that other people are talking about their marriage. I'm like, well, in my marriage to Rachel in the business, this is how we worked through this problem. Yeah. So it's a positive thing, but I just thought it was funny that I'm like, you were that person for me when other people are like, my husband, my spouse.
That's the cool thing about this stuff is like, it does translate. Like
totally.
we are a whole person, and it's like I always get them wrong, but the rising tide floats all boats, I think is the quote, where it's like, if you're working on this wedge of your life wheel, to go all life coachy on you guys, you know, that is going to have implications to the rest. And so if you're working on a relationship wedge, like the way you learn how to handle that relationship in new ways is going to help all the others. So it's almost like, I don't know, it's kind of cool to think about it that way, because then that means you could practice within relationships that feel quote unquote safer and build up that muscle to be able to then step out to your edge in areas where you're maybe a little bit more afraid. But like, okay, now I have the proof. I know how to do this. I know that it can work. So anyways, I think it's kind of cool.
And I mean, I'll give you kudos too. I think for me, it's like you are on the journey too, right? Like we're on this journey to get to know ourselves better, and you do know yourself well. And when it comes to intimate relationships for me, I'm sure the people that I've dated have that, but even I just don't think we've ever gone there. Like I haven't gone there with my intimate relationships where I've had such a like deep understanding of the person, and whether it's because they didn't know themselves that deeply or they just chose not to share it with me, I don't know. But like you and I go there, like we talk about the fucking ugly stuff. And I really think in a lot of other relationships, it can be easier just to kind of stay above it, and that can work. But when I think about intimate relationships now in the romantic sense, it's like, I want someone, like, I know what it feels like now to be connected with someone and like to see their shit and for them to see my shit. And like, how do I find that now? Yeah, in the romantic space, like you said, to carry it over.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because that's kind of exactly where I am. I feel like the past couple years, 2 to 3 years, I've found friendships that have been kind of like you guys. It's like you grow so much in this like soul, almost like soulmate friendship, where you're like healing, you're discovering who you really are. And, but finding that in the romantic sect is very hard. It's a very hard thing to do, but I think laying that foundation of surrounding yourself with friends who genuinely love and care about you and are on like that same path of seeking or soul searching, or whatever you want to call it, is I think a great like first step of, okay, I'm figuring out who I am, and now, all right, let's move in this direction.
Totally. I will also add, I feel like I threw it on the people around me. When it comes to me not having that level of intimacy in romantic relationships, I guarantee, like I said before, everything's a mirror. It has something to do with my own inability to like allow myself to go there in a romantic relationship. And like you just said, Emily, there's like some sort of safety, I feel like, in these friendships that I have that I don't know, I guess I need to explore, because I don't even think I have the answer to that of like, why in these romantic relationships have I not been able to go there? Is it because I've been performing? Is it because like I'm trying to hold on to something that I know will maybe fall apart if I actually go that level deeper because they weren't my right? I mean, like at this point, obviously I'm not with any of them. So like, you know, deep down, you know that they're like not the right people. I don't really know. I guess I'll have to get curious on that. But I just wanted to say that it keeps happening. So that is on me to own and figure out.
I think it really, for me, over the past year, I've really thought about, and it gave me a better understanding for this exact subject. It's like, what were my examples of healthy relationships as a child, as, you know, a teenage, you know, whatever it is. And I was like, well, fuck, like this is very parallel to why I have these, you know, detachment issues in my current, you know, intimate relationships. And so I think that was like the big eye opener for me, is like, oh, okay, how do I heal this little child Emily and tell her that like it's okay, it's all right, you're safe, you can trust, you know, a man, since I'm, you know, a straight cis white woman, but you can trust this man to be, you know, what you need him to be.
Yes.
How have you started doing that, Emily? How
have I started to like trust men?
Yeah. Teach me.
well, it's, you know, I'm no expert here, but for me, it's kind of, I tended to attract a lot of men who were emotionally unavailable. And, you know, I began to realize it was because of kind of the energy that I was giving off. And so now, you know, I don't have it all figured out, but now having that open, vulnerable energy of like, hey, this is like what I need. And if you aren't going to be able to provide that for me, I'm like, this isn't going to work. Instead of just kind of being like, all right, well, I'll just continue to do this for, you know, whatever, and not commit and just feel really empty and, you know, yada, 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 whatever. It's like, no, like, let's create a line of saying, this is what I need and this is what I want. And then you will just naturally, you know, as woo-woo as it sounds, attract people that are healthy for you.
Well, yeah, because if you don't have your own clarity, then, and so what's interesting is that I am like nodding because, and just like, yes, yes, yes. My way is not to put an arm out. Mine is like, oh, come here. And then I just like hold on with everything. I'm like, let's swim to the deepest part of the ocean together. And like, let me show you, let me like force this honestly, it's almost like a false sense of intimacy, because it's like I will overly expose myself because I feel like you could be the person. And but at the end of the day, it's still coming, you know, whether it's an arm or whether it's a total like, let's sink down to the bottom of the ocean together, it's not coming from a place, both are not coming from a place of like, here's what I want, let me just share it with you, and then let's see where that takes us. And allowing the person to show up, I kind of take over, and then the other person doesn't even get a chance, honestly, to almost exist. And I have a tendency to see the parts of them that I really want to see, and not seeing who they actually are and being able to see the beauty in who they actually are and love who they are, and then make a choice for me from a place of knowing what it is that I want without it becoming this like big emotional thing. So it's interesting that we have like a different, the form of it shows up different, but the core of it is actually quite similar, of like not understanding, and these are my words, but not understanding what it is that I actually want and need, and being able to communicate it in a way that is not, you know, defensive, forceful, dramatic, personal. You know, it is personal, but not from like a, yeah. So, and I'm very much learning that while in a relationship of 6.5 years. So it's really interesting to be realizing that mid-relationship, and how you have that conversation with your partner around, hey, I recognize that I am still me, but there's a lot in this that I've kind of not allowed the fullest expression of myself to show up. And I want to try doing that. And you may not like it. And I feel very grateful that my partner has said, he actually said the other, maybe like a month ago, the rest of this year is the year of Rachel saying what she wants and not worrying about what the response is. And he was not guaranteeing anything. You know, he was like, I don't know. You're right. Like, maybe you show me parts of yourself that I don't work. And, you know, maybe you show yourself parts of yourself and you realize something. And so it's like, I'm kind of in that right now of giving myself permission to not have to change anything except get clear on who I am, what I want, and practicing speaking it with non-attachment to the outcome.
One of my favorite podcasts that I'm listening to right now is all around manifestation. So I'm like, kind of like you had mentioned, it's called Expanded. And really the ongoing theme of the podcast is that everything is rooted in your self-worth, and that connects so much, I mean, to everything in life, but specifically intimate relationships too. So now as I'm dating and meeting people and deciding to do things, keep coming back to that, like, what is this rooted in? Like, or I'll say to myself, like, no more low worth behavior. Like, you know, why are you choosing to do this? Is it because you don't feel worthy on your own, and so you're reaching out for something to fill that? Are you doing it from a place because you feel like you're lacking or you're too much, or, you know, whatever it is? But just like asking myself that question, whether it be because I want to reach out to someone, whether it be me choosing to go on a date with someone, whether, you know, whatever it is, I'm just like trying to stay focused on, like, is this coming from a place of worthiness, or is it like, because I think a lot of times, I mean, everyone does this. I think women do it even a little bit more, is just feeling like someone's choosing you. So, and they're a good person, so I should choose them because they chose me and they're a good person and there's nothing wrong with them. And we can have like a healthy, nice relationship and it'll be fine. But then it's just that it's fine, right? It's not like, it's like you could get so much more, or you could get close to what you want, but because we're not speaking about what we want, for me, it's like, I think deep down it is a worthiness thing. It's just like, am I worth going after that person that I want, fully want? Because you can meet people that are partial, they use the term like expanders, right? They have like a lot of the things you're looking for, but maybe not everything. And then we just kind of say like, well, this is good. I should be grateful for this person. And not that you can't like appreciate them and see that they're great, but like you can also appreciate them and say, okay, you're great and you're not for me. There's something more I'm looking for. You're close, but you're not it. And that doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't devalue you, but I'm worth finding exactly what I want. And not from like I want a guy, I mean, I guess it could be this, but like, I want a guy that's 6'5" and makes over $100,000, you know, like, but from like I want someone that fucking like, I feel passionate about, I have that deep connection, that we're building it. And it's the concept of like, you know, if it's on a hell yeah, it's a hell no. And like, yeah, there's going to be things that could be not great all the time, of course, but I think deep down, like when you check in, it's like, is this still a hell yeah, even though we're working through shit? Like, I can take it back to my relationship with Rachel. we'll just talk about our relationship all the time. Like, even when we're going through shit, I still feel like deep down, like, even like I'm fucking uncomfortable, this is hard, da da da. It's like, you're still a hell yes for me, you know? So, like, keeping that in perspective, but I just don't think I've really ever done that with dating. It's just like, cool, this guy's like a great guy, and it's true, and he likes me. So then I like him. But that's like the worst. Like, why do we do this?
I feel that so like deeply. Just like, oh, he's great. Like, he checks off some boxes, he, you know, whatever. But, you know, I was seeing this guy, and I think it all comes back to self-worth, right? It's like, I was seeing this guy, and, you know, he did a really good job, and he was just like, you know, he was funny, you know, and he'd be a great dad. And I remember one of my best friends saying, like, does he ever give you any compliments? And I was like, no, but I don't really like compliments. And then I thought in my head, I'm like, well, wait, why don't I like compliments? Why am I not bothered by the fact that this dude never compliments me ever? It's like, oh my God, it all went back to like that self-worth. It was like, oh my God, I don't feel like I deserve those compliments. And it people settle so much for these like guys that are just, man, like they check off boxes, they have a good job, they whatever. And then, you know, you get down to the nitty-gritty of your relationship, and it's not going to last because, you know, he doesn't set your, or, you know, she or whoever doesn't set your soul on fire. Like, how are, like you said, like at the end of the day with Rachel, it's like a hell yes. Like, no matter what, even when it's hard, even when, you know, things get tricky. But it's like when things get hard with people like that, it's not going to be a hell yes. It's going to be a hell no, I'm getting the hell out of here because it's not worth it.
It's a tricky dance, right? Because it's like, I think it was Oprah Winfrey. It might not have been. But she said something about like, don't look for Mr. Right when Mr. Good Enough is right here. Is that what it is? Did I just totally fuck it up? I probably fucked it up. Right. But even I'm like, so I remember thinking that to myself of like, and I remember, and I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, so maybe like the 10-year gap changed. But like when I was in college, I remember a lot of people saying to me like, you have way too high of like, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Expectations.
I guess expectations, and like we'll just say expectation.
You're too picky. Your list is too long.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you just have like, you expect way too much. Like you're never going to find that. You're going to be single forever because of it. And so I remember, but does that, I don't know. I don't really know if I'm like wrestling with it right now of like, even like paralleling it to like monogamy and marriage. And it's like, okay, so you're going to choose this one person to be with forever. And when you evolve, hopefully there's enough patience on both sides to both evolve. And hopefully you both evolve in a way that continues to allow both of you to continue growing. It's like, it's kind of a lot to ask. And like, I've changed significantly with each relationship. In each relationship I've been slightly different. And I can't imagine that like, I'm such a seeker. I'm going to keep growing. And, you know, to just, I don't know, it's almost like if you're going to be okay with whoever is just here right now, Mr. Good Enough, then is that, I mean, that does sound like settling. It sounds terrible. But could it be that you are just like allowing the person to show up where you're at to be there while you're there, and then once you evolve, you're okay moving on to the next? I don't know. It's so weird.
I mean, you're always gonna learn. It is such a dance. And back when I was in Dallas, actually, you and I recorded a podcast that still has never been released. And I remember saying in it, when it comes to relationships, I'm like, I want someone who is like, we're both sprinting as fast as we fucking can right next to each other. and like we're doing our thing, we're doing our own sprint here, but we keep looking over and we keep choosing to be near each other, and like when one of us fucking jumps, the other one eventually is either going to jump or they're not. If they don't jump, then fine, it's done. But like that, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how you figure out if someone's it. That's why I asked Yvette in the last podcast when she was like, Joe is my soulmate. And I was like, what the fuck does that look like? Like, how do you know someone's
Well,
your
so here's
soulmate?
something that just came up for me while you were talking to answer my question is like, if we live in a society where the ultimate success for a woman or for people is to couple up, because not just women, it's like for people to couple up and find that person, find the one, find the thing, the one, not the thing, find the one.
Find the thing and then find the
one.
one.
The thing and then find the one, yeah. But if that's the ultimate, and so now your ultimate goal is to like partnering up becomes like more important than anything else. Now it makes sense that you would start to like, I'm going to stop paying attention to myself and what really matters and because being single is the worst thing that could ever prove your worth in the world. But if we start shifting to like, you are worthy no matter what, your relationship to yourself is what's actually most important, and we release the valve on needing to like be in this committed monogamous thing for the rest of our lives and find the one now we can all breathe a little bit. It's not as like taboo to be single when you're fucking 50, and we can chill out and give ourselves some space to actually pay attention to the relationships, pay attention to the people around, pay attention to how we feel. And so that just came up for me, was like, we have created this weird, it was like a safety that then now has created this like lack of an ability. It's forced us into a lack of ability to pay attention to ourselves or give us the space to actually find the people that we might actually be more comfortable with, that we meet when we're 37 versus when we're so young and now we have to stick with it because we're supposed to. And there's obviously something to take from like, you know, are you bouncing because you're running away or from something, you know, or are you bouncing because you actually gave it your all and you grew and you understood that it was time to go your separate ways. It's not that one's better or worse. It's kind of just allowing this space for some self-awareness and giving people the freedom to be able to choose what makes sense for them, because either and all scenarios can be loving and hurtful, all of them. It's not like one's more loving and one's more hurtful, because in my family, it's a badge of honor to stay in a relationship that is dysfunctional and abusive. And that's not loving. And so that's an example of I've seen examples of monogamous relationships that have like gone on longer than they should have for the sake of something that has been, you stick together, that equals unconditional love. And that's not necessarily true. I'm learning.
I said this to someone the other day. Well, this was like not the other day, this was like months ago, but I said, and Rachel, and you and I have talked about this when it comes to marriage. Like, I grew up wanting to be married. I think I still want to be married. But at the same time, I also really want whoever I'm choosing to be with at the time to be able to walk away. Like, I want it to be easy for them to walk away. And I say that and it fucking scares the shit out of me saying that, because I'm also like, no, don't. But at the same time, like, I never want someone to just settle for me either. Like, I don't want to be the person that you're just like, she's good enough. Like, no, fuck that. Go find someone that, yeah, like, lights your fucking soul on fire. Like, I don't want you to settle for me. Like, we both deserve not to settle. But it's really hard because it is true. Like, society doesn't view being single as a positive thing. I mean, I can't count the number of times women saying this about men too, especially men that are older, being like, he's 40 and is still single. What's wrong with him then? He has commitment issues. And I mean, maybe he does. Or maybe he really fucking knows what he wants. Or maybe both. But, you know, who knows? Or like, who knows? But, I mean, it is. Like, even getting out of my last relationship, it's been 7-8 months now. And like, yes, I go on dates. I think dating is super fun and whatever. We could get into that whole rabbit hole, but like a lot of people in my life are like, oh, well, you'll find someone, or like, you know, they want you to settle back down. And I'm like, that's not really actually what I want. Like, I just kind of want to have fun, get to know people, get to know myself through dating. And it is funny how people kind of like, they look at it and it's just like, oh, but you're alone now. I'm like, and I also, I mean, I do that to myself too. I think internally, I'm just like, oh, but that is what we kind of teach each other versus being like, fuck yeah, girl, you go be single, you go live in your RV, you go sleep with all the dudes you want to sleep. You get it. Who cares how fucking old you are? You go get it, girl. Like, you know, just do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I don't know. This is me pep talking myself.
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to blow you guys' mind. I have been single for like 9 years.
Let's talk about this.
Years. So I'm
applauding you first.
Honestly, I think there's a lot there, right? But I really feel like being single for long periods of time is something that everybody needs to do. Like that is like my true recommendation for like anyone is, if you want to figure out yourself, be fucking single for, year, 2 years, whatever, because it will show you who you are, because you have no one else to worry about. You're not trying to, not saying if you're in a relationship you're trying to impress anyone, but you're not being anyone else. You don't have to be anyone else, because there's no partner, there's no one that you need to even really be anyone else for. And so, there's definitely a lot of probably issues there as well. But yeah, being single is definitely something that I think, especially women, I think they kind of need, or we need to have those periods of time.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, anything at an extreme can become a coping mechanism. So I think one of the interesting things with Jenell and I is that we have been on like similar paths, which is kind of fun when we're like, I mean, I hate saying we're almost a decade apart because it doesn't feel like that, but we are. And when she left the relationship with her ex-boyfriend, the things that she was working on were honestly the things that I've been working on in my relationship. And so I think it was a cool realization for me that any path you take really can get you where you're going. Like, we've both been not learning the same things, obviously, because we're on our own journeys, but we've both had access to the same amount of evolution and growth because that's what we chose. And so, yeah, so like, yes, if what you're used to is being in relationship, maybe try not being in it to shake it up. If you're used to not, maybe try being in to shake it up. And no matter where you are, there's always the access point for growth and evolution if you choose it.
Totally. When I was getting out of my relationship with my ex and I was starting to see someone else, because definitely a relationship person. One of my friends said this to me, and shout out Joe Fletcher, we're from college, but I was talking to him about it, and he's just like, Jenell, if there's any question about this new relationship right now, then it's not worth sacrificing yourself for. And I was just like, fuck, because I was like getting all squirrely about it, and I was like feeling this tension and this conflict inside myself of like, oh, but I like this guy, but I said I was going to be single. I probably need to be single. Like, and I knew, like, your truth, but then you're like, but here's this, it's like a fucking test. Here's this test of a person who's like so many of the things that you want, but like not quite there. And then you're getting fucking squirrely about it. And just those words of advice, I'm like, no, like, choose your fucking self. And granted, did I do it the most beautiful way? No, but I still did it. I stumbled, I got there, I tripped, I got up, I tripped, I got up, I tripped, I got up, fucking fell down a flight of stairs, got up. But it's just like choosing yourself if there's a question. Like, you know, if there's even just that little voice in your ear that's like, this isn't it, not yet, choose yourself. That's always what I try to remind myself every day.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point too, Rachel, like what you just said. Like if you're used to being in a relationship, it's like maybe try not. And it's like if you're used to not being in a relationship, why don't you try maybe being one? That's like kind of where I am. I'm like, okay, well, I've been like avoiding this giant elephant in the room for, you know, almost 10 years now. It's like, okay, let's maybe take the plunge here, like make steps to, you know, have that growth, because it is a growth, like what both of you just said, like you've grown exponentially in all of the relationships that you've been in one way or another. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I want and I'm seeking that kind of growth of, you know, figuring out that part of myself and figuring out what I actually want and need, not what I'm thinking I want and need, but what I actually want and need from a partner.
Can I ask you a super vulnerable question?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you actually want and need?
Oh boy. So for me, a huge thing that is like constantly coming up is I have to have equality in my relationship. And I know that sounds like kind of like at first you're just like, well, duh, like everybody wants that. But it's like I really have to feel like I'm on an equal playing field with whoever I'm dating. And especially, you know, being straight and, you know, dating a man, it can be difficult to sometimes, you know, have that, because traditionally, you know, especially in our society, you're told, you know, man's the provider, the protector, he's the financially, he's the one that tends to support the family, whatever. And so for me, a big reason I think I've also been resisting is like, I want to like prove that I can like do it on my own. You know what I mean? So that's one big thing. And I don't know. I really don't. Maybe I don't actually know what I want.
And like it's always evolving, right? And like you're figuring it out. There's a I guess okay, I'm gonna date myself. Is a meme only when it moves, or a meme can be a still image, right?
A meme is a still image.
Still image. Okay. A GIF or GIF is the other ones. Okay. So there's a meme.
Still a GIF. Not a GIF. I don't care what Preston said in season 2.
Oh, and then I have like a really important question to ask you, Emily, after this. Make sure I remind me to tell you.
Okay.
So anyways, I saw a meme, I think, that was it said, don't look for your other half, look for your other equal. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So because the other half then makes it seem like you're trying to find this other part of yourself, but it's like ideally it's two whole people coming together and they're equal. And I will also say, I love that, what you want, that thing you just said, because it's something that I come from a family on both sides of like really strong women who are like, we don't care how small we are. We will do whatever you think you can do. We will do it better. And I forget that there's a YouTube series that we've been watching and about this family who RVs, and in it, sometimes they fall into these traditional roles. And I'm like, no, man, I want to be able to like do all the shit. I want to know how to like know when the certain electronic is like busted and like how to change the fuse and like all this stuff. And Dylan's the same. He's like, I don't want you to have to only be the one who cooks and like cleans the thing. Like, no. And I want to like clean out the shitter pole. Like I want to do all, which I do. It's my favorite task. And I appreciate the call out, because I think I have taken that for granted, or not taken it for granted, but I like didn't think, because it's just something that I like assume is like a given. I hadn't really thought about that as something that you would need to be a stand for, and you do. So I love that. Okay, so my thing is, when you are dating people, how do you learn about them? How do you learn the things about them? What do you do? Where do you go? I'm like trying to feed you the question I'm asking in a really weird way.
You're trying to ask the question. I'm like trying to think deeper.
Don't think too deeply. If you were like starting to date somebody and then you were like, oh, I'm going to look up things about them on the internet, where would you go?
Oh, are you talking like about like Instagram?
Wait, is that where you'd find information about them? Where else would you go?
This is such a leading fucking question.
I know. Where else do you go, Emily?
If I'm trying to find more information.
Yeah, you want to get the dirty goods.
Oh my gosh.
Where do you go?
Whiz courts.
Yeah, well, I will say my mom is an attorney, so I'd probably like text her and be like,
okay,
hey, look up this person.
That's a Wisconsin court system.
Instagram, but that's not really juicy. That's just kind of.
No, it's not. You're right. Where would you go?
Have I already like established something?
No. Okay. Google.
I could go through.
You would Google it.
Oh, I would Google it.
You would Google it. Okay, good. Jenell made fun of me like 3 months ago because I was like, you should Google stalk him. And then she was like,
oh, yeah.
Google stalks. I was like, how do you get the dirt?
You just go on their gram and you let them show.
No, Instagram is so curated. You're not going to get the dirt on Instagram. My friend was like, you got to go on Strava so you can see where they are. I was like, okay, creep.
Shit. No, I decided there are 3 questions that I ask every dude I date. I ask, when was the last time they cried and why? It's combo. Do they believe in ghosts? See how open-minded they are. And what does their relationship look like with their mom? That tells you everything you need to know. When the last time they cried? How in touch are they with their emotions themselves? Do they believe in ghosts? Are they open-minded? They can still say no, but but I'm open to the possibility of being proven wrong. And the relationship with their mother. I have yet to meet a dude that does not treat their romantic partner like they treat their mom. Just sit on that one.
Those are some good questions. I'm going to steal the crying one.
Do it.
So what does it look like to be yourself in a relationship? And I'm coming from a place of like, spiritually speaking, Emily, we both are like very much in the world of like yoga, meditation, and in it, I've had this conversation with people before where it's like, you really need to focus on your relationship to yourself first. And sometimes it's like all that really matters is yourself. But then that gets me to thinking like, okay, so then I could live on an island and have a great relationship with myself, but is that really the point? And so I've been wrestling with this, like, if it's really just about the relationship to myself, then what's the fucking point? And so I'm curious if you've thought about that or have any thoughts on it.
So you're talking about spiritually, like within a relationship with someone?
I'm just saying, like, as I've been navigating my own relationships in my life, a lot of times it comes back to like, come back to yourself, come back to yourself, come back to yourself. That is just a mirror of like your own thing within you. And so really the most important thing is to just be good with yourself. But then at a certain point, and I've had this conversation with a few different people who have gotten to that stage of the question of like, okay, so now I'm working on me, but then what's the point of having another person then? Like if I'm self-fulfilling, then why is another person needed? And so I don't know, have you like wrestled with that at all?
Yeah, I've actually that's like kind of the main focus I feel like I've been thinking about these past few months, especially, is like, all right, I'm always thinking like, okay, when I'm done healing, I'll be ready for whoever.
That was in air quotes, everybody who can't see.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're on podcast. And I don't really think, like you just said, like, I don't really think that's the point, right? Most of us want companionship. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a connection with someone else, having love, you know, with someone else. I mean, for God's sake, it's like the reason that the world goes round is that love and connection with either friends or, you know, an intimate romantic relationship. And so I think that, you know, what I have found is that I feel like I've done the work by myself. And it's like now I think I've kind of taken myself as far as I can go by myself. And so it's almost like hitting a little bit of, you know, in a path, like a wall or, you know, a hurdle or something. It's like, okay, I really feel like having someone else brings you to a growth that you can't get just on your own. And maybe I'm wrong, I could be, but that's what I've really been feeling this past year, especially, is like, okay, well, even though I'm not done, in air quotes, healing, that's okay. I can still, with open arms, accept someone into my life, even though I may be damaged, even though I may have all this, you know, trauma or whatever. It's like, you can still accept another person and realize that if they're your person, they're going to help you on that path as you are going to help them as well. Hand in hand, walking down this path of life.
Yeah, that's kind of where I've gotten to, is like, not only is another person honestly a challenge, like it's almost like you figuring it out in your own head as a concept is like, great, now let's put it to practice. And my ability to actually be with another human and have them be a variable that I can't control, and learn how to navigate myself. And then not only that, learn how to express and give love from a place of wholeness. So I think it's almost, I'm like obsessed with infinities, because I feel like everything is like a cycle and a dance between polarities. And it's like the first time around, well, at least I'll speak for myself, like the first time around, being in connection with other people was at the expense of myself. Like I was giving without understanding this. And so it was just there was still growth in it. It's not like it wasn't, it didn't teach me anything, but I hadn't done the work that you were talking about. And then when I was able to do that work for myself, and which I'm still doing, as I'm able to do that work for myself, to like be the whole person that I am, or be closer to it, or be working towards it, or at least have moments where I'm like, I know what that feels like. Now, when I give from that place, it's a very different type of love. It's a share. I read this somewhere too. Instead of giving, it's sharing. I'm now sharing versus giving you everything, because I understand what I need to stay whole and able to continue to share. And now I'm able to experience what it's like to actually give, to be responded to be reacted to, and then to manage my own self within that too. And that's such a beautiful part of life. But it does seem like it's both. The point is not to sit on an island and just get to know yourself as best as you can. So
I read this somewhere, it's not my own words, but it was something along the lines of, we experience trauma, whatever whatever you want to call it, in a relationship, but you also heal it, that very trauma that you experienced in a relationship as well. And that feels, Rachel, I know you hate help, but it feels helpful to me.
Did you say that I hate help?
Hope. H-O-P-E.
Oh, hope. I was like, I love help.
No, you love help. No, you don't hate hope, but I like to use the word hope a lot.
Okay, so say it again, because I heard help. So say it again.
So we experience trauma or disruption or whatever word you want to use in relationships, but we also heal that trauma in other relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Wait, where's the hope? Oh,
I said it feels hopeful. Hope.
Got it.
Hope,
okay,
hopeful
wow.
Hope.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so does anyone else have anything that they want to add to this conversation? Otherwise, I think we're gonna have to wrap up. We're getting close.
I could talk for hours about this.
But I know that was the most awkward ending. I apologize.
I'm good with closure. All right, meow.
Yeah, dude, Emily, I love your heart. You're so,
thanks for saying that. I love both of your hearts as well.
I really appreciate the invitation that you brought to this space and your vulnerability. And I think it's really cool that we went into having this conversation so long ago, and all of us have kind of been going through, I think you said it best, like, I am having wild transformations. Is that what you said?
Yes, I think it said something like that.
Yeah. And I was like, that is the best way to describe this time, is like wildly transforming. And to have this conversation several months later, it was almost like seeds were planted, and I think all of us have been kind of like sitting with it. And that's cool to be able to share several months after kind of like the reflection of it a little bit. So we always ask our guests at the end of each podcast, how do you live your true north in one word?
Right now, I'd say healing.
Can I ask a follow-up question to the group?
Yes.
How do you live your true north in an intimate relationship in one word?
Oh. Openness.
I have 2 words.
Go for it.
Trust. It's like trust and non-attachment.
I was going to say vulnerability.
But maybe worthiness. Now I'm just throwing in all the words.
Worthiness is pretty good too.
I'm going to say worthiness. I'm taking it.
Go for it. No, low, worth decisions.
No, low, worth.
Gotta clap when you say it.
Yeah.
Ta, ti, ta. Did you guys do that in school? Ta, ta, ti, ti. You remember? I mean, okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, when you were like,
no.
When people were the teacher was trying to get everyone's attention.
Oh no, I was talking about like music classes, or when you're trying to like count. Never mind. It's so really,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
When you're counting out music. I don't know why that just came to me, but that's what it reminds me of.
Oh, that's our new chant. Thank
you. Long. Don't you remember it was like a long note? You were like, I'm moving my hands and no one can see this, but okay, it doesn't matter.
So long ago.
This is nothing.
I actually do remember that now.
Yeah, you know what's up. All right.
I remember ta ta ti ti ta.
Yeah. It's been in my head. Like, I don't know why I can't get it out of my head. Whenever I go, I'm like, ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Maybe I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Hey, Emily, if anyone wants to get a hold of you to continue this conversation, to stay updated on life, to reach out to you, where can they do that?
Probably Instagram. My Instagram's Emily Kay Ortiz. So if anyone ever wants to reach out, it's probably the best.
If you want to listen to Emily's smooth, silky voice, then you should go to Breathe, Mind, and Body. I'll put a link in there and find her meditations. There's a Breathe at Home, and what? And you should go listen to her voice.
No, that's the other reason I know you, Emily, because I've done your meditations when they were on Instagram Live.
Oh,
Back in quarantine. when I was alone in my apartment and I was doing all the meditations on Instagram Live for Breathe. Years was one of them. Anyway.
Isn't her voice just like so
You like
silky?
said that and I like was transported back into time. Like I can see myself in my little 1-bedroom apartment in Slow, and I was just like, I'm pretty sure I was crying on my bed and I was like, I need to meditate.
For sure. She speaks like through your soul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your voice, dude. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna stop. You're awesome.
I'm gonna sing you
All right, everyone. This has been personal.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah,
You're
Emily.
amazing.
You guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate
this
it.
conversation. This has been another episode of the True North Collective podcast. For more from Rachel and I, check us out on the gram at the True North Collective _. And if you liked what you heard, please consider leaving us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast. Until next time.